Yes, you're watching Business Morning on Channels Television, and we're broadcasting live from Lagos, Nigeria. Today on the program, our conversation is going to be on the importance of national productivity in forging inclusive growth. Now, we know that the 24th edition of the World Economic Forum Africa meeting comes up next month in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, and it is the first time that Nigeria is hosting it. And the theme for this year is forging inclusive growth and creating jobs. And so in the last couple of days, we've actually been looking at various sectors that actually can key into this theme, that is forging inclusive growth and creating jobs. And today on the program, as I said, our conversation is going to be on national productivity. We're looking at some of the strategies that Nigeria has in place and what they can also learn from some of their peers that will actually be at the World Economic Forum Africa holding in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, next month. And so I'm being joined on the program to have this conversation this morning by two gentlemen, one a business coach and the other the president of a School of Productivity. Remy Dairo is actually the president, School of Productivity. He's on my far left. And to my immediate left is Bashir Muse. He's a business coach. Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you so much for coming in this morning.
Good morning. Happy Easter.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now, when we talk about national productivity, what does it mean and why is it really important?
Okay. Bash, you want to start?
Well, national productivity is an output that we look out for in a nation that, okay, how productive is this nation is. But to start with, we don't talk about an output without looking at the input of what the nation is really putting into the economy to determine exactly what will be the output. So talking about national productivity, we are looking at how productive these nations is. For example, as a nation, what have we been doing in the last 50 years of our independence? Determine exactly where we are going to be today in the face of other nations. So, and like I always tell people, as a business coach, I look at it from the one angle particularly. The mindset of every Nigerian will determine our skill set before we determine exactly what we are going to be doing. That will determine exactly our national productivity index.
Okay, so now, Remy, in light of what he said, how would you assess Nigeria's productivity strategy?
All right. I say this. I said the quality or the way we quantify the productivity of a nation is not by what the nation is producing. It's by the capacity of the nation in line with what it's producing. Therefore, if the nation has a capacity to produce and is producing lesser than the capacity, then it's not productivity. It's not maximum productivity, as the case may be. Therefore, I see national productivity as the maximization of the variances or the factors of productivity coming to a maximum level. Then we can say this is the national productivity of a nation. Sometimes we come up with a GDP to judge that, and I disagree, because GDP is just is a part of the aggregate of a country productivity. There are other salient factors of productivity in the nation that is not considered productivity. There are people who also have the capacity to produce, but they are not getting results because they are not inclusive in the GDP calculation, as the case may be.
So you're mentioning GDP calculation, and we just did a rebasing of our GDP.
Right.
So in light of that, how does that now also affect our productivity outlook?
I was reading through the Mr. President's goodwill message on Easter, and I was saying, he said we are doing very well in a good economy in Africa. He said because Nigerians are hardworking and they do, but there are many Nigerians that have the capacity to do much more, but they are doing lesser, or they are not even staying at all. So I said the GDP is not the original or the sure aggregate of the capacity of a nation. So a nation GDP is not the totality. I'm saying it is when the capacity of a nation or the variance of productivity are maximally put to use. There are many unemployed graduates. How can we now say this is the GDP of the country? There are many people who have gone to school who are looking for a job and they are not employed. They are not putting their brain to work. They are not putting what they've learned in school to work. Then where is the productivity you're talking about? So national productivity is much more than the GDP. It's the aggregate of the capacity of a nation to deliver what they are meant to deliver for the nation.
Okay, so you said GDP is not the totality of a nation.
Yes,
it is a
yes.
capacity to deliver. So I still want to know
Okay.
what other parameters is used to actually calculate the productivity of a country. In this case, Nigeria.
All right, in Nigeria, one of the statistics says 80% of Nigerian youths are unemployed. That is 80% potential capacity waiting. Where is that coming in? And out of that 80%, we have 20% that are working, okay, that are employed. There are 10% in our research in the School of Productivity. 10% of that 20% are underemployed. They are working not according to their capacity. Somebody have a BSc certificate, he has a first degree certificate, and is working with OND or a school certificate. And then we are calculating that GDP. So I am saying that the quality of a GDP is the aggregate of the capacity of a nation into the economic sense, or the economic capacity that we, aggregate to the GDP we are talking about. So I'm talking about the capacity, potential, and then the aggregation.
Okay, so Bashir, if you can, add to that, if
Okay,
you will.
well, basically,
still talking about the calculation. How do you calculate a country's productivity?
Well, productivity, like I said, is a function of what the output we are looking out for as a nation. And looking at it, if you remember, maybe 10, 15 years ago, we had a National Economic Empowerment and Development Strategy that was scaled down from the among the 8 goals of the MDG, which is to reduce poverty, and we came up with needs. From needs, it was scaled down to states. We have SEED, State Economic Empowerment and Development Strategy, down to LEADS, which is local government. All of this policy and strategy that we have developed over time, we've not been able in any way to implement them to letter. And in calculating this GDP, there are many other factors. One of the key factors, the engine growth of a nation, is the small and medium enterprises. They've been neglected for too long in this country that nothing really in tangible form can we say have been done to support the small and medium enterprises in Nigeria. Of recent, something like YoWin came up like 2-3 years ago.
And Shopee.
And Shopee. But how much can we say in terms of impact that this actually done on Nigerian youths or SMEs, for example? I was lucky to part of the YoWin as an independent monitor. I monitor some businesses in Kwara, Nasarawa, and see what they were doing with the 10 million naira they were giving. Someone who has never done anything with 1 million naira, he has 10 million naira before him. It's not the fund. The fund is always there. It's about the capacity, like he said. Like I always say, it's not even the capacity matter wholly. It's about the mindset. If I see 1 million naira in my laps today, in my pocket today, I have some mindset that, okay, breakthrough has come in the world we have as a youth, who are likely the majority of our population as a nation. So these people we need to develop their capacity, but start with their mindset that they are part of this nation. Talking about the inclusive growth, the SMEs are part of Nigeria development. Talking about we can calculate GDP. GDP calculation is not a new thing. They do that almost every 5 years or 10 years in UK and other countries. So doing that in Nigeria should not be something it's not a fanfare thing. Okay. It's about how inclusive it is for everybody, other key players in the industry. Okay,
Bashir, comment on this if you will.
Right.
You said the mindset has so much to do with the
skill set.
The skill set.
Exactly.
Now, in trying to change the mindset,
okay,
how can they change the mindset? Who should be changing the mindset in such a way that we'll begin to see the output, the desired output that we look for? Because in the calculation of productivity, you say it's output plus input equals to productivity.
Exactly.
So the mindset is the input. So how do you calculate it in such a way that you begin to see a skill set that is the output?
Okay, for example, why somebody go to university, study engineering, and find himself working at the counter as a teller? It's a function of his mindset. All he's looking for is like this Maslow hierarchy of need of motivation. He's working at the basement level, which is I need to feed myself first. For him to be able to perform at the level we are in. For example, a lot of funds come into this country, and he can attest to that, as in Remy. He can attest to that because he just came back from UK of recent, and a lot of funds were even being said that they are available for people who are ready to do some stuff.
That's people in the informal sector. That's SMEs.
SMEs, for example. Right? But this SME we are talking about, I mean, I don't think Mark Zuckerberg or like the Google boys, they came out with the idea of how to make money on a quick run, as we have in Nigeria. That is the way I'm talking about as a mindset. It's about value you are going to create first. It's after you have created the value, people can appreciate that value and they are willing to pay you for it. So if I go to university, study for 5 years, and I was looking for a bank job with a B engine, what am I doing there for the first? The mindset is about I need money. So such a person can never be much as productive, even in the banking sector. You need to start all afresh, to start ICANN, to get into CIBN and all that before you can even be relevant in the banking industry. He has not, going to school, you have been conditioned for 4 good years to be an engineer. Now you are working as a teller. It's a different mindset. It's all there for the money. That's all. Over time, you might get inducted into the banking world and become a good banker. But initially, he has gotten it wrong because, and where do you take that back to? The government. Infrastructure is not there. Basic things of life. If you and I have good access road, electricity, and we can have food on our table, everybody in this country are very active. They are very active and they are willing to do a lot. But when you look at the basic things of life, we can't run away from it. A lot of people have gone through so many things, but what comes first is the reality for them is I need to feed first. So they will go for what is available, not what they are capable of doing.
You see, it's not peculiar to Nigeria.
Exactly.
It's something that has, we've seen across even developed economies, like the UK, the US, and like China, Asia. Exactly. So looking at the fact that, we're the 26th largest economy at the moment, we're the largest in Africa, how can we begin to prioritize our policies to ensure that our productivity begins to, is now fast-track to the extent that it meets, what we actually have at the moment? What we have right now is the fact that we're the 26th largest in economy in the world and in Africa.
Yeah.
So what policies, what strategy should we begin to look at?
Okay, let me come in there. In the School of Productivity, we have a national productivity plan, a strategy for job creation. And then one of them is we have to start from the cradle and bring productivity into the mindset of every Nigerian.
Back to mindset again.
Back to mindset again. Now, from primary school, there must be course called productivity. That as you are learning English, learning mathematics, you are learning something that is much more, that at the end of the day, you can use all these courses for, and it makes me more productive. Now, I met a doctor last week, said, I was in medical school for 7 years. With all I did in school, I was not taught how to do business. But at the end of the day, a doctor will open an hospital, and he doesn't even know how to do business. You have to start to learn that outside the medical courses that you're taking. So if there's a productivity courses in school, taking primary school, breaking out the primary school, secondary school, university, colleges, then you see people having, a mindset of productivity set already before they even come to the marketplace. Now, in China, in America, in UK, you see that there are special schools that are not academic schools. There are schools that improve skills, that improve, the kind of skills that will improve your productivity, that you can learn. There are also private schools you can go for. There are polishing schools. There are things you need to do to prepare yourself for the workplace.
But we have such schools here in Nigeria too. We have such finishing schools as well.
Is there a policy like that you must attend those schools? It's just optional.
So there should be a policy that will state categorically
that before you start business or before you even take the loan or take you win or you take anything at all, you must go through all this process to learn before you handle money for business at all. That will put you in the right perspective before you start business or before you even start work.
And to give the credit to the federal government and state government and even people in the Ministry of Education, now it is becoming a part of our curriculum to go through entrepreneurship development in schools. Nigeria is a big nation, 160 million people.
Over 160
million. Over 160 million, and that says a lot. That we should be, we are going through a phase. We should know that big nation that we see today, we are looking up to, they have passed through this. I've seen a documentary that the men who beat America, for example. This is a phase we are going through. But we are actually impatient with what is going on. That, we want to see it happening over a time, it doesn't happen that way. If you have a baby must learn to crawl before he can walk. However, we are not saying we should, crawl for 6 months or 1 year before we can start walking. We can fast track with the, IT leverage and all that. We can fast track. And I can tell you, 2/3 of our brains are out there because of the environment we are talking about. It's not conducive. So where government comes in, for example, is to bring about policies and strategy, engaging other consultants and the likes, that will ensure a favorable and sustainable environment for people to practice and start businesses and grow. SME is the key engine to growth of anything we want to talk about. Without them being nurtured, nothing's going to happen. So they needed to be, breastfeed, back on the, put on the back and the lights, give warm attention and the light, and they will grow over time. You Win is a very good initiative,
Yes.
but it has to go beyond federal government. What is every state governor is doing in their current state to replicate You Win? It can't be Mr. President or Minister of Education, Coordinating Minister of Economics that will do all that. State governors, they have their own vote of the money from the federal allocation. What are they doing with that? Election is coming now. You see a lot of activity going around. Empowerment for youth. It's all about election. If you really have the intention of the youth at heart, there should be a state plan. Like I said, 10 years ago we have National Economic Empowerment and Development Strategy for state, for local government. What has happened to that? Those have to be revived and sustained. Not that Jonathan or whoever is going to be there in 2015 will scrap all that. We should sustain a plan that will develop this nation beyond anything you can imagine.
Then quick, let me just add this. When we talk about empowerment is not buying hose, buying cutlasses, giving them, a tricycle or motorcycle to work with. Empowerment starts from the mind. They need to be trained, including local government. Just like I said, federal government spending money on training, on empowerment, state government, including local government. So every hands must be on deck, transforming the nation one by one.
Now, in terms of government ensuring that there's actually an agency that focuses on this, you remember that there's actually the National Productivity Center
Yes. In Ilorin.
in Ilorin.
Yeah.
How much has the... No, objectively now.
Yeah.
Objectively now, we have to be very objective in this and put sentiments aside.
Right.
How much has the National Productivity Center achieved in terms of trying to boost productivity?
All right, I will not speak for National Productivity Center. I will only speak for the School of Productivity. But I will go back there. The National Productivity Center, they are doing their best. And when I say they are doing their best, they are doing the best that they know they could do. And they are doing it part-time. The last time I watched the television, they were giving awards to the most productive people in the nation. And I saw that. And they spent so much money, they came up with this policy, and they were pushing something. But is this thing touching, the man on the street? Can a man walking on the street feel the productivity of this nation? Is it contributing? Is that part of the policy? Now, in the School of Productivity, we have curriculum for people right from secondary school till master's level. Now, what am I trying to say? Because there's a gap. That's why we're coming in. So National Productivity Center, they are doing their best because that's what they know how to do. They're like parastatal, and they're being, they're being monitored by the federal government.
Being
funded.
So, in other words, it is not something that should be left entirely to the government. The private sector has to step in.
Exactly.
So in trying to step in to bridge this gap, what areas should the private sector be focusing on that the government arm of it hasn't totally addressed? Bashir, can you comment on this?
Okay, beautiful. One key area that we can look at is we have the big businesses. We look at the value chain in any business. If there is for example, an industry coming up in Nigeria, for example, there are other small or micro and small enterprises, not even medium now, that are producing something very fantastic that they can be as a source of raw materials to the large businesses. So what happened to our import-export policy? The business that is operating in Nigeria, are they sourcing raw material from the locals who are producing? Then you can develop their capacity in that area. Yeah. Or for those who are going into soft skills related businesses, I won't call mentoring. Are there coaches, business coaches, who can hold these people and grow them to a point they can now become, have stability and the like? That's another area to support.
But who holds the hands of the business coach? If the business coach wants to hold the hand of these entrepreneurs who are starting up, who holds the hand of the business coach?
Well, for example, a business coach is like a professional. What it does is business coaching. And a lot of people will ask you, what do you mean business coach? What's the difference between a business coach and a consultant? And I will tell you, for example, it's not about a consultant who is giving you a solution, for example, because what is peculiar to you, Harriet, is even for me, Bashir. We have different background, different experience, different education. So if I'm giving you a solution, for example, even with my knowledge as a consultant, it might not be the right thing for you. But as a business coach, where I'm coming in from is to ask you a question about where you are going, for example, in line with your vision as an entrepreneur, in line with your vision of your enterprise, and any vision of your employees, for example. So I bring those three into perspective. As an employee of an organization, I have my own vision for my life. Is it in line with the corporate vision of this enterprise? or in line with the vision of the entrepreneurs. So as a business coach, I assist entrepreneurs to look at this from these three perspectives. Don't just be for yourself alone, because if it's for yourself alone, definitely I'm learning something from you as an employee. If I step out, it will be for myself alone as well. So I'll scale down.
Well, Bashir, you know, there's another challenge I know that is common everywhere, is the fact that we have people who say they have a prerequisite to fill a particular position. For instance, now, we'll have issues of having consultants who say that they have an idea of what or how to manage a business, and most times it's just textbook information.
Exactly.
And so, where do they, in terms of ensuring that we don't have everybody, you know, claiming to be a consultant or a business coach coming out and giving us just everything that you can basically go online to go and read and understand what to do or from the textbook. In terms of development for the business coach, how can they begin to develop themselves and position themselves in such a way that they can also help these businesses that they want to help to become more productive?
Fantastic. Well, it starts from, anyway, we're talking about, maybe today's program is about mindset. As a business coach, I have a mindset that I am there to help people. And what is my focus is these entrepreneurs, they needed help to grow from where they are to where they are going. You ask me, as a business coach, have you done any business before? And I'll tell you yes. And it doesn't really matter whether I've done business or not, because if you have seen a doctor, it doesn't mean whether that doctor has actually had the same, health challenge before or not. He's trained, he's experienced, he knows what to do. That's why he's, providing that solution. So as a business coach, is to help you to move from point A to point B. But most people, and I can tell you, most people, where we get it wrong mostly, anything we do in life is 80% psychology, 20% mechanics. As in doing it. Because if there's no motivation for you to sustain it, you got to a point. Every business, like you said, even in the advanced world, they have their challenges. But there's a mindset that I need to see this through. This is all about my life, nothing more. Burn the bridge and focus on it. But a lot of people have so many, supporting there that, okay, let me do sell pure water today, tomorrow orange is out, let me sell orange. So like that. But if you have a focus and somebody can help you, that this is all about you, and it's beyond the money you want to make, it's about value you are going to create, then you're adding value, then it can become blossom. WhatsApp wasn't thinking about selling to Facebook, but was sold for $19 billion. It was about solution, about value that they are creating. So that's what a business coach will help you. How do you create value in line with yourself, true to yourself?
Well, so
achieve your goals.
From what you've just said anyway, what I think I can glean from it is that you're a coach because you've actually been through the process, and so you understand what it means to be an entrepreneur.
Exactly.
But hold on to your thoughts. We'll come back and continue this conversation in just a moment. Let's catch our breath. You're still watching Business Morning on Channels Television, and we're broadcasting live from Lagos, Nigeria. Today on the program, we're looking at the importance of national productivity in forging inclusive growth. And I've been speaking with two gentlemen who are going to be here with me in the studio when we come back in just a moment. Well, thank you so much for sticking around.
You're welcome.
Well, let's quickly comment on this, if we can. Just got this one, that the challenge that Nigeria faces is one of harnessing resource efficiency to accelerate growth in the economy. It's not that the government spends too much. Rather, the challenge is one of balancing the rate of investment with return on investment, as the efficiency with which available resources are utilized is a key to growth and competitiveness of the economy. Remy, you want to comment on this?
Yes, I think the government have a lot of role to play, because policies cannot be made by private people. It has to be made by the government.
Okay, but then in line with what I've just read now, it was a comment by one of our viewers that it's not that the government spends too much. The government spends, it's not too much, but it's not saying, he's not saying that it's not enough. So in terms of trying to utilize and harness the resource efficiency that we have, it is not that the government is not spending enough or is not doing enough. So you were already taking it from the angle of the fact that the right policies. So it's not that the government doesn't have those policies in place. What better way can this be synergized to ensure that the strategy of having a improved national productivity is achieved? Okay,
thank you. Let me quickly just run through the 7 productive way of creating jobs. For example, you don't need to spend too much money. You just need to do the right thing and put the right strategies in place. Now, there's eradication of the urban and rural, dichotomy, in which don't just spend the money in the urban area for people to come and get a job. it creates another problem for the rural area where they cannot even be more productive there. Now, what I'm trying to say is government should be able to now create jobs at the rural ends where they look at what can make more people more productive there that will generate economic, sense to the whole nation. Therefore, the government should be wise while doing those strategies and spending money. Okay, number two is they must also motivate organizations to be able to create jobs. Now, how does that happen? Now, there are people who are changing the economy of the nation. They are the SMEs. The SMEs must be well funded, and the money must be tailored to the right hands. I've seen occasions where people go for empowerment, training, and then after the training, they give them fish, they give them, they give them materials, they give them, a pumping machine for this and that, and immediately they are through. They sold those materials in front of the seminar, organized by the government. Therefore, government spends so much money. Truly, they brought those materials, they brought beans, brought things for them to start, their life with. And immediately after the program, they sold all those things because they were hungry. So these people, also, the government is spending money right, quite right. But then the people that are trained are not trained. They are not the right people, or they are not trained well, or they don't even know what to do with the money. Therefore, much more than spending the money must be spent aright. The next one is education. Education, you don't need to spend too much money. You don't need to introduce some courses that would transform the nation right from primary school. Imagine from primary school, you know what produce means, what input means, what output means, and then you are coming up with that mindset. If you go to China, an average China child is being, tailored right from kids to be able to become what he has found out to be. And the many Nigerians don't even know who they are or what they can be. Therefore, because of that, they just look for a job and look for something to do, and then they do it. And they go say, we are pushing in money. We are spending so much money, and we are not seeing the result. But because the money spent is not spent strategically. And then I saw something here, supporting innovation and creative ideas. Innovation change a nation. Innovative idea changes a nation. Therefore, government must spend money on innovative ideas. Ideas like I'm sure the amount of money that Google brings to US today, the amount of money Facebook and all that brings, is because governments spend enough time with this innovative idea that is going global. So if a government is spending money, they should find ideas that are global that the whole world can pay for. Then when they spend money in this direction, you see input, you see productivity, you see the GDP, you see the output, of a nation. And then finally, I would say this: there should be mega collaboration, a mega collaboration between the big businesses and the upcoming businesses. There has been this gap. Oh, big business. Oh, small business, and then you see the small business struggling to become. Now, imagine Dangote, helping many SMEs, and okay, say 100 SME. And you are on mentoring session. You are on mentoring.
I'm not holding brief for Dangote groups,
okay.
But they do for Dangote group. I beg your pardon, but they do have initiatives like that, programs like that, where they try to help and encourage, mentor, handhold some of these small businesses.
That's what I'm trying to say. I'm saying that imagine big businesses now holding many SMEs and then training them up, and then they don't need to pay a particular amount of money, tax again. So government will bring down the tax for many organizations that are doing this. This will encourage big businesses to mentor SMEs. I think I should stop there. And then
okay, Bashir. Now, earlier before we went on that break, you talked about information technology. Now, some actually say that it's because of low technological capacity that our national productivity is actually low. Do you share the same view?
Well, our low technology capacity could be a factor. But there are other ways to look at this. For example, there is a CC Hub in Yaba where techies, smart kids, whiz kids that does IT-related businesses. And a hub is being created for them where everybody can bring an idea. A funder can come in, invest in, like we call angel investors, can come in and invest in those businesses. What's happening to our free trade zones? So we need business clusters. That's where we can support and leverage on each other. If I'm doing all I could in my own little area, for example, if I'm in Ikorodu, for example, and I'm producing a particular product there, my challenge is transportation from Ikorodu down to city center, where I know this will be bought at a reasonable price. But imagine we have a business cluster where whatever I need is just from the next door neighbor. I can get it. For example, every China phone that you buy is being produced within a 3-bedroom apartment for like 7 4 to 7 different companies, occupying 4 different companies now, having their own enterprise in a business cluster, producing the panel, producing the keypad, producing the sound system, whatever, and they assemble this and they come as a product. A company will even champion the sales of this product and give it a name as a marketing company. So if we want to create and improve our productivity as a nation, we need to have business clusters being, created every state. Go to Dubai, they have knowledge village, they have sports village, they have this village. What are they selling to us? They are sending a signal of a business cluster. But whatever you need, you can't operate in isolation as an enterprise. You need support of other dependent, either for raw materials or whatever you need, or skills or whatever you need. So if there's a business cluster, we can solve most of our infrastructural needs through business clusters, and that can help our productivity to increase.
But you know that we actually have some clusters, at least in Lagos. We have one in Agbara. And of course, we have most of them share on the outskirts of Lagos. Now, those ones are industrials.
Industrial, exactly.
So, in other words, we should also look at forming clusters for specific business.
Micro, small businesses in the same industry, for example. In the same industry, for example. So, they can leverage on, like I give example, the CC Hub in Yaba, they are doing exactly the same. Some people came up with the idea of what to do. They conceptualize the idea of a particular product. Other guy will come and write the program. Others will turn into a final product. That's a micro example of a business hub we are talking about. Such a thing can help us to develop our productivity, to a very greater extent.
Okay, so that's one strategy we're looking at, exactly. Business cluster.
Yes.
What other strategy can actually be adopted?
Funding.
Or that Nigeria can actually adopt?
I think funding is key. And right funding, because the government is trying. I must say government is trying, but right funding. And this funding must be put in the hands of people who are trained. Minds that are trained, funds are useful in their hands. Therefore, before you even give them the fund, let the mind be trained. So I think training comes before funding, so that there will not be wrong funding, and then we say, oh, the government is pushing so much money, and we are not seeing so much result.
All this talk has just been at mostly the federal government level. How about the state and the local government? How can they contribute?
Yes, I agree with you. I said that. I said both the state and the local government must take up this responsibility. There's an amount of money, there's an amount of budget that is kept for empowerment, that is set for training. It must be used for training. And we say training now, it must be training that will improve the capacity of the state's citizenry, all the local governments, people that are staying there. It will really help so that we can have an holistic change, holistic productivity from every end. As the federal government is trying the best, the state and I must say this, the Lagos state government is really trying. Imagine if all the 36 states are doing what Lagos is doing, then we can generate our own power.
Let me just quickly say, it's because you are in Lagos State.
Okay,
I'm very sure if you go to another state, take for instance, Delta State or even Kano, and you ask them and they'll still say the same thing. But because you're not in the state, so you don't thoroughly appreciate what the state government is doing. So in looking at it objectively, let's say that a lot of people, Lagos is a commercial nerve center of the country, so it's like arguably expected that it should be like that. But now looking at it outside, looking at the Lagos example, which other states or what can other states do to replicate what Lagos State is doing in terms of trying to encourage a burst, so to speak, of productivity? Bashir?
Well, to start with, there should be like for example, we just had a Betty 2014, which is just the economic summit.
The seventh one.
Seventh one. More of it should be happening in other states as well, as in what's happening in other states. What do they have in their own natural environment that they can tap into? People are supposed to be looking inward now. Not everybody wants to do a white-collar job. White-collar job doesn't even make it to be rich overnight, as people are looking for it. The natural resources that we have in this nation, in our country as a nation, is more than enough to take us to the glorious height that we are looking for. Each state is supposed to start looking inward. What do we have in Kogi State, for example? What do we have in Edo State, for example, that we can focus on, bring investor in, develop capacity of our youth, because the youth is 70% of Nigerian population. Then and they are ready to work. I can tell you, if Nigeria should move from here to another country, for example, what they cannot do at home, they will do it out there. Yeah. So and that's going back to our cultural value, for example. I can't do such a thing, or how people will be looking at me, I'm doing such mindset now. So, and that's affecting what they are not. But when they go out there, they will do any menial job just to survive out there. So how do we encourage such from home? That are you an indigenous of this particular state? Government is welcoming you home. Maybe at every December, we bring everybody home. What can you do? What have you learned? What is your capacity? What can you create? Let every state become competitive. That's when we are talking about dissolution of power. It's not about having power as a state governor, having state power. No. What is your state as economy is doing? What is your contribution to the national GDP as a state, for example? That is the question to the governors out there or the people in power. They're supposed to be saying that from within. Every state in this country, if you go to Nigeria Ministry of Solid Minerals, they will tell you every state has huge amount of deposits of what can be tapped and make that state to become what? When everybody is focusing on either politics or oil and gas or banking sector or telecoms. And that is not what is actually what we need. Develop capacity, like we said. Look inward. What is your natural endowment as a state that you can come up with? Everybody should be proud of their state. In my state, this is what we produce. And we are contributing to the national GDP. That's one thing. Secondly, we have so many associations in Nigeria that are not functional. They are just occupying position of just being there. I mean, apologies if this actually is stepping on anybody's toe. I know NASI, National Association of Small Scale Industries. What are they doing? I know NASME, National Association of Small and Medium Enterprises. What are they doing? There are so many others coming up. There is one in Ikeja, Association of Small Business Owner, Asborn. They are talking on radio. But beyond talking on radio, what are we really doing as an association to form that cluster and develop ourselves? There, for example, if you form an association, a cooperative, there's amount of money you can, attract or fund from government, either state or federal, to support any initiative. But people are not doing that. Even if they are doing it, they are not promoting it. Promoting it will make other people to be interested in it. Because people have promoted the job in bank, oil and gas, and telecom. Everybody wants to go there.
Now, World Economic Forum comes up, World Economic Forum meeting on Africa comes up next month.
Okay.
Now, we're going to have a lot of global leaders, mostly from Africa. We're going to have industrialists. We're going to have captains of industry.
Okay.
What lessons do you think Nigeria should be learning from its peers who are actually going to be at that meeting? There's going to be so much exchanging of ideas.
I think the meeting is an opportunity for Nigeria to learn, and not just learning, to put to practice or whatever thing that we learn. Now, there are things that will come from other countries that is peculiar to the country. We must also see the application, how applicable is this in Nigeria, and looking at our cultural value, looking at the way we were brought up and all that, it will really help us. Now, what I'm trying to say is Nigeria must not see that conference as an opportunity to spend money or as an opportunity to, wow, just Nigeria there again. Is to sit down and take notes. And it's going to be a rapporteur, or it's going to be a way of getting all the information, and then sit down. There should be a think tank committee on those results, and then come up with a strategy from that meeting. It's going to really help this country because they are bringing knowledge to Africa, just like what we had in Festac when they brought all the masquerade everywhere in Africa. They brought it, and we had Festac. Now this time around, they are bringing all the knowledge to Nigeria. We should maximize it, and then we should look at the application and see how relevant and how productive this can be for. And I think it's going to be a big opportunity for us.
So now, some are saying that to engineer this shift that affects the economy, we should look at a three-pronged action framework. Let me just read that out, and that it should address all levels, namely macro, sectoral, and organizational productivity improvement levels should be looked at. And so, going forward, in terms of after or going to WEF now, that should be what they should have in their mind. They should be looking at what exactly are they going to be taking in terms of macro, sectoral, and organizational productivity improvement. But you mentioned that even after the forum, a think tank should actually be put together that will sit down and look at these ideas and begin to form, policies, sustainable policies that can actually work. But before that begins to happen, now, the way we are, what kind of action plan should the government be looking at before, whatever plans it is or whatever ideas it is that comes up at WEFA comes up? What action plan should they be looking at? And for how long should they be looking at this action plan in terms of realistically now, ensuring that the productivity level is improved on?
Great. Let me just say this before Bash comes aboard. When the government set up the national conference, it was to discuss our political future. Can we stay together? Where are we going to and all that? I think it might not be a conference this time around. There should be a think tank that would come together from all the sectors, not necessarily from the ethnic group or political group, but that will discuss the productivity future of this country. Because the future productivity of this nation is key, much more than what we are producing now. So it is from there we now begin to see the application of the forthcoming summit to see, okay, this is where we are going to. Is this applicable? What can we take from this? If not, we just get those materials or get those information, and then we are going nowhere because we don't have a focus where we're applying it to.
Bashir.
Beautiful. Well, it's for every Nigerian to look out for opportunity of what they can add as value to the Economic Forum. And for the policymakers now to look at, to be true to that stuff we've been talking about, which is the having localization or indigenization of policy to be implemented. We have so many people, so many corporations in Nigeria, for example, in the oil and gas telco, that we don't even have Nigerians close to any gap in position of authority or that can make anything happen, because we should not run away from the fact that there's an adage that you are not there, you are asking how it was shared. So if Nigerians are actually there in the forefront of what is happening in our nation from the enterprise perspective, then they will be able to talk about what could be beneficial to their own brothers, as case may be. So that's very important, very, very important. And more so, everybody, it's not about policy, it's not about actions, it's about action step. What will you do to make it happen as an individual now?
Yes,
as an individual.
Well, Bashir, I'm going to ask you that question, maybe 6 months on or 1 year on, to ask you what have you done to ensure that the productivity level has actually also been boosted? Because it's not all about talk, it's about action.
I'm doing that every day.
But thank you so much for coming on the program this morning, Bashir and Remy. It's been an interesting conversation.
My pleasure.
Well, I've been speaking with two gentlemen. Remy Dairo is the president, School of Productivity, and Bashir Muse, he is a business coach. And we've been looking at the importance of national productivity in forging inclusive growth. As you know, that's the theme for this year's World Economic Forum Africa meeting, which is taking place in Abuja next month. It's actually on forging inclusive growth and creating jobs. Of course, we're going to keep looking at sectors like that and keep having conversations on how some critical sectors can actually look at this and tap into this and actually move forward. I'm talking about the theme. I'm Harriet Agbenyi. Bye-bye.